Hello guys and welcome on this call. I'm here right now on the head office of Corsair in Bangkok. Today we have a private meeting with Mr. Jussi Saloranta. So let's start it. I want to start with the first topic as of today. And the first topic what I want to cover is how is the plastic waste problem started and why a few do something about it. And I mean that there is a global plastic waste problem for companies and governments. So how is this problem, the plastic waste problem, how is it started in general?
Well, I'm going to give you the very long answer on this one, right? So as we know, plastics have been produced and used already since the 1950s, so about 70 years or so. And originally plastics were developed as a solution to try to protect the environment. Because during that time, if you go back in the 50s, it was very common that people would use paper bags and everything was sort of wrapped into paper. Right. So plastic was at that time seen as a solution to try to protect the environment and not necessarily having to cut down so many trees, which I think was a great approach to it. I'm originally from Finland, which obviously is a major paper producer in the world. Paper has been one of our main export products for decades and so on. So I completely and very closely see that cutting down trees and using that for our daily paper use is probably not the best idea. So that's where the plastics originally originated from. And what people maybe these days don't understand properly is that the plastic itself is not the problem.
Right.
It's like saying that, hey, glass is a problem. No, it's not the raw material or the product itself. The problem is, what do we do with the plastic after we've used it? And that's where the problem comes. If you look at the numbers, for example, from last year, and I've used this example in many occasions, but if you look at the production numbers of plastic right now, last year alone, we produced globally more plastic waste in weight.
More
combined plastic products. Well, plastic waste as well, but specifically, we produced more new plastics than the entire global weight of all human beings are together.
Wow.
So if you just think about that for a second, if you take every man, woman and child, all right, and you put them together on a scale, in 1 year we are producing more new plastic than that combined weight of every
just
human
1 year.
In 1 year.
Wow.
And unfortunately, less than 10% of that plastic ever gets recycled.
But will be recycled in plastic again.
Right, but right now it's going to landfills, it's going into oceans, it's getting burned, and so on. So that's where the problem comes. So, to answer your question, plastic itself, how I see it, this is my personal opinion, the plastic itself is not the problem. The problem really is what do we do with the plastic after we've used it and we throw it away, right? So that's where the problem originates from. And what we need to do as a human society and human beings is to really now create the solutions on properly treating and recycling that raw material that we have, that we are just now throwing out into the environment.
Like the circular economy from glass and metal and...
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, still in the 80s and early 90s, for example, in Finland, myself and some of my friends, we would still, go around and we would find glass bottles like on the ditches around the roads. People would, drink a bottle, throw it out into the grass somewhere. We would go and collect these and then take them to the shop and get money from them. You won't find glass anywhere in the environment anymore. Because now there is all these recycling schemes and structures in place so that metals and papers and glasses get recycled very, very efficiently. But plastic has not been done in the same way, and that is really what we need to be doing right now. And we as a company and as a community obviously want to play a major role in that.
So that can be the solution of the plastic waste pollution globally.
Yes. So when you look at what's been done today, and then you look at what needs to be done, really, is that in many places around the world, especially politicians and governments would see burning the plastic as a solution. And by burning, I mean incineration. Basically taking the plastic, putting it into burners where you can make it into electricity, for example. Or in some places, plastics are used as a raw material to create heat, like for example in the cement factories and such.
Right.
But yeah, you could say that maybe it's better that the plastic is used to make electricity or heat than to leave the plastic on the landfill. Maybe. In my opinion, you're not solving the problem. By doing that, you're simply taking the waste from the ground and now you're creating all the pollution to the air.
It's not a very good solution on that.
No, right?
No.
And also, if you take plastic and you burn it, either in an incinerator or even in a engine of a car, it's not really recycling, is it?
No, we see also that a lot of landfills, the plastic will be burned on the landfills themselves. That's even the worst.
Yeah, like you actually have open burning taking place.
Yeah.
And that's the worst, because then, at least in the incinerators, at least there are scrubbers and filters and stuff that will block some of the pollutions to the air. What we've seen in some places, horrible pictures and videos where they are simply just open burning it, like pouring gasoline on it and setting it all on fire. That's obviously not good.
No. What are your thoughts about the plastic waste in the oceans? Because this is also a very big issue at this moment right now, and we see that a lot of skills, a lot of plastic waste now dumped in the oceans, like the Amazon rivers and something like that. Yeah. So what's your opinion about that?
Well, yeah, obviously that's a huge, massive problem. The amount of plastic that gets entered into our oceans and rivers, is just absolutely staggering, right? Yeah. And I applaud, I give credit, I am very supportive for any actions that is done in order to remove plastic from the oceans. Like there are organizations that are going out there and they're doing things to collect the plastic from the ocean. But again, I think that we need to look into this topic with much more clarity and think about it from the efficient point of view. Because, for example, going into the ocean and then starting to collect the plastic from there by bringing in big ships and tens of people to work over there, it's already by itself creating a lot of emissions. Right. So going out there with big vessels and doing all this thing and then bringing the plastic bag, in my opinion, is not an efficient solution, because eventually you are using so much energy and you're creating so much, for example, carbon emissions by going out there with big ships and trying to pull this plastic out, that it doesn't really make sense for the amount of plastic that you get to collect. And we've seen it now with some of these other organizations. Like I say, I applaud for them. I'm not saying that what they're doing is wrong, but if you actually do the balance of how much energy they used, how much pollution they created, and how much plastic they got, it's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. So here's my thought on it. The reality is that if you have a leakage in your kitchen, let's say like this, you walk into your kitchen and you got a faucet in your kitchen that is leaking water, and you got the whole kitchen floor covered in water. Mm-hmm. All right? What are you going to do first?
Dry the water. or find the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So first thing you want to do is you want to turn off the tap, right?
Yeah.
Because there's more water coming in all the time.
Right.
If you take a mop and you start mopping the floor when there's still more water coming, it doesn't help you much, does it?
No.
So the point is that a lot of these organizations, what they're doing right now is they're basically doing that. They're mopping the floor while more water.
That's what you said, the 10% and the 90%, right? That every day, on average, there will be produced plastic, 10% will be recycled, and 90% will produce new plastic.
What I mean by that is that these organizations are going into the ocean, right? And they're picking up the ocean, plastic from the oceans.
Yeah.
That, in my opinion, is same as going into this kitchen with the floor flooded and trying to mop it a little by little.
Right.
What you want to do first is you want to turn off the tap.
Yeah.
And turning off the tap means catching the plastic before it enters into the ocean. Okay? Now the reality is, and this is where we are coming into picture, the reality is that most of the plastic waste that enters into our oceans every year is heading over there, is entering into it from 10 major rivers around the world.
All right.
All right? How does the plastic enter into the rivers? It enters into the rivers from landfills. People, as we've seen in some of those videos in Amazon and other places where people dump it into there, right? And that's how the water, the plastic then ends up into the ocean.
Right.
So what we need to do is we need to turn off the tap. And the turning of the tap means that we need to catch the plastic at the rivers before it enters into the oceans. And therefore, what Corsair is, for example, now doing is we are already in the process of launching our first pilot project here in Thailand in the Bangkok Chao Phraya River, where we are going to establish a proper river plastic catching method.
Wow.
And by doing that, we will be able to start creating results and experiment more on this area on how much we can catch the plastic at the river before it even enters into the ocean. Because everybody can understand that if you have a river that flows continuously 24 hours a day, if you can catch the plastic there,
you break the chain.
it's a lot more easier and efficient to do that than then to go into the ocean and try to catch it from there.
Yeah.
Right? So I see that the solution needs to be that we need to block the plastic at the riverside before it goes into the ocean.
Right.
That's step number one. Once we've accomplished that and we have drastically reduced the amount of new plastic going into the ocean, then we can finally get to the point that we actually go into the ocean and start cleaning that. Okay?
Yeah.
And you know, we thought about this a lot, like what are the ways how we can do it in the most efficient way. And the best, the most efficient, financially viable, best win-win-win situation that we came up with was to work with the fishermen.
Yeah, there's a very great collaboration you have
Right.
done there.
So what we did is we formed a collaboration here in Thailand now with more than 100,000 fishermen.
100,000.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, this is more than 7 fishery associations around the country. And these guys will go onto their boats here in Thailand and they go as far as Indian Ocean. They go all the way to Papua New Guinea. They don't only do the fishing around Thailand, they actually go very far away. And what we are doing with them is that we are encouraging them now to catch this plastic that they get on their nets
Oh, wow.
every time when they do their normal fishing work. And instead of throwing it back into the ocean like they've been doing all these years, they will now bring that plastic back into the shore. We scale it and we pay for these guys about 5 euro cents per kilo for every piece of plastic that they bring in.
So it's like a win-win situation for both of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that the amount of plastic waste in the oceans, as we just spoke, is massive. And there are estimations that by 2050, it is being projected that there would be more plastic in the oceans than
More.
fish.
Wow.
So when you look at, for example, some of these videos of the fishermen when they pull their nets up, the amount of plastic that comes in the nets is just unbelievable. It's amazing. So what we want to do is we want to encourage these guys not to throw it back into the ocean, but to actually collect it, bring it back, and get paid for it. So what happens here is that the fishermen, now they get another source, an extra source of income. We as a company, Corsair, we get a great, clean raw material, which we can use in our chemical recycling process. And eventually there's less plastic in the ocean. And we didn't spend any extra effort, any extra fuel, any extra manpower to get the plastic. It came in as a side product. Instead of going out there with specific ships and spending a lot of fuel and manpower and energy to go and catch probably less plastic than what we get from the Fishery Association collaboration.
Perfect.
That's the Catching Plastic initiative that we launched a couple months ago.
Great. So there will be covered a lot of things about the plastic waste and how it should be created, and we see now several solutions on that. That you now collect the plastic waste from the landfills and break the chain on that one, and also the collaborations with the fishery. So that's very good. So that brings me to the next topic. I think this is a very good answer on the first question.
Great.
So let's break it down to the next question as well. So thank you very much, Jay, for this answer.
Great.
And then let's start it with the next question.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.